In a vast world with a giant continent that goes across the whole planet, a world with marines, pirates, and organizations here and there, one of them being Baroque Works. It's an organization made by this being I want to talk about today, Crocodile. He's dubbed Mr. Zero. The organization's strength of the fighters of the organization's power level ranks are based off what they are. Like Mr. Zero is the main character I'm going over today, but there's also other characters, Mr. 1, Mr. 2, like stuff like that. And the list goes on. The higher the number, the weaker you are. There's these like super weapons that are mysterious in this world of One Piece too, that can incinerate entire islands without a trace. And he wants weapons like this at his disposal to make his job easier overruling the lands. He wants to have greater military power. In the world of One Piece, there's a lot of ways you can become strong. This being Mr. Zero is strong for a multitude of reasons, of course. Since he's not the main character, a lot of the stuff or training he might have done in his life, we haven't seen it actually happen on screen, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen. I mean, he's not the main character. He's not Luffy. But one of the reasons he's even strong is because he ate one of these mysterious fruits in this universe that we are still yet to know the origin of. These devil fruits, he ate the fruit that literally made him a sand type man. So a nice assumption would be to assume that over years off screen, he's trained in order to develop different techniques with this sand. And that's part of the reason why he's so strong. It's literally hard to be hit if you don't use no type of liquid or nothing. It's hard to hit his physical solid body. Your punches would just, try to punch sand. It's not really solid. You know what I mean? It's kind of like trying to punch water. How do you punch water? You see what I mean? So you're probably thinking, oh, is Crocodile strong without his devil fruit? If somebody that's superhuman punches his actual solid body, if somebody uses water or something, would he instantly be knocked out by a powerhouse being? Well, the answer to this is no. The main character, Luffy, somebody we've seen actually push buildings apart and punch Crocodile himself so hard where he would go through city blocks, raise up or devastate city blocks with his punches. Crocodile can survive these kind of hits. This stuff right here implies that even without his devil fruit, he's still physically a beast to a certain degree if he can take these hits. You hit any other normal human with this kind of force, they would probably splatter. The Crocodile still survive. This implies even if you hit his solid flesh and blood body, he's still way durable than your average. Same with his physicals, But let's really deep dive into him on how strong he is. One of his techniques he's developed with this sand ability is literally draining beings' water out of their body. I'm talking about drying beings up. Like this is one could say a hacks. This really doesn't have nothing to do with physical punching, blunt power or nothing. Just drying somebody up. This should work on anybody technically. He has techniques where it allows him to literally dry up the land. Very hacksy type of techniques. Like his weakness is technically water. If you shoot water and he uses his right hand, he can kind of absorb that water by drying it up instantly. You can look at like his devil fruit giving him extended range because, he can make his limbs longer via sand, shapeshift his limbs into actual literal blades, making his junk into like a blade. On top of flight, no telling when he lost his other hand, but he has like a hook on his left hand that's not necessarily sand, it's actually physical. He uses sand in conjunction with this to kind of reach out to you and grab you with the hook. Might I add that this hook has poison, and if you manage to actually break the hook, it's got a knife as backup. You can argue that he can make his sand into literal concussive blast power type stuff. Like you see in this occasion, this literally looks like an energy blast with the shockwave, if we're being honest. Make his own literal sand tornado. He's one of those characters I do not think it would be smart to fight him in a desert. He can make his own quicksand puddle to where you literally get sunk in the sand. Especially, don't fight the guy in the desert. It's really hard to get out of situations like this. One Piece is weird with human sizes. Crocodile just so happens to be one of those abnormally large humans for no freaking reason compared to average sized humans. Off gate, he's got a genetic advantage just from his height and muscle mass and size. He's just abnormally strong because of his unnatural size. Off gate, he has like a little small advantage at birth, one could say. It's little moments like this that can give you a small example of his strength on how he's able to hold up the weight of Luffy with one arm with laughable ease. Little small showings of strength, physicals, muscle. In a way, he kind of has attacks that ignore durability. So obviously stuff like doors he can incinerate because he can just dry it up with his sand blast and such, because he can absorb all moisture. So doors won't stay in front of them long. For Pete's sake, he almost killed the main character Luffy with this technique. It's one of those techniques, I don't care who you are, it's best to fight Crocodile from far away. You don't want his actual bare hand to touch you. He can dry you up. Even if you're a physically stronger being, how is physically being strong than Crocodile going to help you if he just dries all the moisture out of your body? You see what I mean? It's hacksy. And without even relying on hacks, he could just make his own sand blade. Like here, Desert Sword, to make this big split or fissure in the ground. Splitting in the desert open, split in the ground. Yeah, he could definitely split buildings down the middle. That's very believable at this point when you can see what he can do with his sand cuts or sand blades. But you're probably thinking he was only able to split all that sand because he was in a desert. Nope. He can definitely do it when he's not in a desert and he does all this damage to the palace they're near or building. I kind of feel bad for normal human flesh and blood that these sand blades come in contact with. Let me go back to his drying up ability. I want to show you how destructive and hacksy this can be. Look what it does to the big chunk of the ground, cracking it up. Even the buildings like they're on is splitting apart. Yeah, this is really destructive when it comes to environmental destruction. This is where he really wants to be hacksy and just start drying up everything that's you're standing on, really. Ground death technique with sand. Like, how long did it take? How many years off screen did it take for him to develop these kind of techniques? He can make sandstorms. Like, they can be miniature, or they can get insanely destructive to really give you an understanding of his blast power with the sand. Here's a visual perspective on what I'm talking about. Pretty much proving his blast power can make storms so crazy, he can just pretty much wipe your whole block clean, honestly. Like, this is the layout of the land when it comes to Alabasta Kingdom. He was leveling this area like it was like over and over again. Like, he has such good range due to his sand ability. He doesn't even need to get close to most opponents. Like, look at all these opponents he can just fling in the air. I mean, he can even use the sandstorm for defense. I briefly brought up this technique earlier, but this sandstorm can be condensed, like I kind of mentioned it earlier, and he can literally just do some straight up blast power type stuff. Like, all this raw power to blow away your block, he can just condense it and just produce this much blast power with it. I mean, just look at the visual destruction on what he does to this temple. I mean, I know he can avoid attacks with sand, but you know you got to be just a superhumanly strong being when you can take this many hits from the main character, level the city block just from getting punched through it. I'm talking about lifting up the buildings. That's how hard Crocodile was getting hit. But yet he survived these hits. I mean, he got punched through the bedrock layer from here all the way to the surface. Crocodile's physicals is really a mystery, but if we had to make a fair assumption when it comes to his muscle strength, like other characters that are under him, right? You know how Crocodile's Mr. Zero, right? He's Mr. One. Remember his organization, the higher the number, the weaker you are. So we could assume that Crocodile could probably lift buildings up with his muscles, just like how Zoro can, one of the beings that his underling was struggling with. I mean, this is Mr. Zero's underling, Mr. One, right-hand man, basically. I mean, you kind of saw Crocodile's durability being punched through a whole city block, a whole bunch of bedrock. It would be weird if Crocodile's physicals wasn't probably somewhere on this physical strength level or higher. But sure, we technically never actually seen Crocodile lift up a building. This is like a fair assumption, though, wouldn't you say? But if you still have your doubts, we have seen Crocodile clash with beings that we could argue are stronger than him in like later arcs. Like when it comes to the weight of his hits, we've seen him strike beings like Doflamingo, and the weight of his strikes contribute to making a big shockwave, implying there's ridiculous weight behind his hits. Even though I'm not saying he was stronger than Doflamingo in this point in time, I would say this still shows a good example of how hard he can hit, though. I mean, just a friendly reminder that Doflamingo, he can hit or cut multiple towers. We've seen Doflamingo match the leg kicking power of somebody like Sanji after the 2 years. You know how hard Sanji can kick before the 2-year time skip? Before he got strong, he can kick gigantic crocodiles or alligators this hard. And Doflamingo overpowered a stronger version of Sanji that can do stuff like this. Gigantic beings that are probably 1,000 tons or more can effortlessly cut beings' legs off like this with his power. You know, he has like the string fruit or whatever that allows him to cut beings, even though if their bones are this thick. Don't forget Doflamingo with his actual power can slice up meteors and such. Yep, so I'm not saying like Crocodile's equal to Doflamingo or nothing, but I'm just putting in perspective on how much weight Crocodile would have to hit with to even be able to kind of match him for a little bit, even if it's kind of off screen. A fair guesstimation would be like he can hit with equivalent force of meteors falling on you or something, certain size ones. Without relying on his sand, he would still be able to hit hard. But what's even crazier, somebody, his right-hand man, Mr. One, got one-shotted by the strongest swordsman in the world with his cutting power, and Crocodile was able to clash with this same blade. This is another character I'm not necessarily trying to say he's equal to either, but this is still impressive. This is the kind of stuff Mihawk, the strongest swordsman in the world, can do with his blade, and without even necessarily being in direct contact with stuff like this, Mihawk can do this kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm not saying he's equal to Mihawk, because the laughable ease in which he beat Mr. One is incredible. So yeah, but Crocodile did block him here. I mean, there's plenty of evidence that Crocodile is technically getting stronger, even if we don't necessarily see how he's getting stronger. He's getting hit by top tiers and staying conscious. Even though he is bleeding and it does hurt him, he stays conscious from this kind of stuff. I mean, the way the One Piece world works, you can kind of tell his power level by the way his bounty has drastically changed over the years. Sure, bounties don't always reflect combat power, but in Crocodile's case, it definitely does. Yeah, they even stated in the Navy, your bounty does kind of reflect your combat abilities. So for Crocodile's bounty to go up like this, there's heavy implications he's gotten stronger. Based on the size of this bounty, I would say he probably could level the whole city on his own like a nuclear bomb status now. Just to give you some perspective on how powerful beings are with a lower bounty than current Crocodile, beings that have a way lower bounty like Don Shinjao, for example, can hit hard enough to split big chunks of ice like this, ice continents, and beings that are literally mountain men, like look at them compared to buildings. A being with a bounty of 500 million has the punching power to shatter big hands of beings that are the size of mountains. You could argue that Crocodile could do this before the time skip, but it's without a doubt he can do stuff like this currently with his new bounty. If you're not familiar with One Piece world, shaking mountains or destroying mountains is like pretty low end, and Crocodile is pretty much reaching into those top tiers recently. If you're still skeptical, like even when Navy people have bounties too. Navy people that are not even really high on the food chain, with beings that have a bounty of 500 million, which is still lower than current crocodiles, by the way, by a large margin, have the punching power to literally shatter arms the size of mountains. Like there was this island man, like a literal man that was an island. Yeah, beings with a bounty way lower than crocodiles can hit this hard, their hockey and everything put together. Beings like Kobe can shatter mountain-sized arms into smithereens. It would be ludicrous if current crocodile couldn't destroy mountains if beings this low end can do it based on their bounties. You got more visual of the sand that crocodile can generate or produce. This brings me into another topic at hand about how much crocodile has improved. You see this black stuff around this character right here that crocodile has a higher bounty than Kobe. He is able to punch extra hard because of this technique, haki. It's a technique everybody has. Crocodile didn't have this before the time skip, but now after training, off-screen training, we see that based on current lore, he apparently has it, or has the ability to manifest this ability. This further adds on to the idea that Crocodile is definitely improving off screen, because in his other information or his lore, they didn't say nothing about him having this ability known as haki. But in newer Viva cards, after the time skip, after his off screen training, and him in a new outfit, he apparently does have haki. And you're probably wondering, what the heck is haki? Well, it's basically the ability to harness your inner energy or inner willpower in this world to make invisible armor around your limbs to increase your defense and increase your punching power, or just your strikes in general. Like Crocodile technically has this ability now too. He learned it off screen apparently. On top of the fact that he has a bounty of dang near close to 2 billion, he has a higher bounty than beings or warriors like Katakuri, somebody whose haki armor around his fist and the weight of his hits can hit Luffy in his highest form to where their fists clash and it actually hurts Luffy's hand, guys. Crocodile has a higher bounty than a god that can fight Luffy after the time skip with haki armor around his hand and hurt his hand with his hits. Like, Crocodile has a higher bounty than this guy. I mean, Luffy in his base form, not even in his highest form, can destroy mountain men with laughable ease. Early arc characters like Enel's blast power, early arc type characters can wipe away islands. This is why I say current Crocodile should easily be able to do this with his sand, at least. Sand plus his haki mixed in with each other. I look at it just like how Enel can make a giant energy electric ball. I could see it like Crocodile currently should probably be able to make a giant sand fist or a sand hammer to crush an entire island that way. I don't see no reason why he wouldn't. Just get a visual on the size of this place. This is what Crocodile can do before the time skip. Yeah. And then when we go back to Enel and he's like a lower tier, back to what Enel can do, the implications of his blast imply that he would be able to level a country or continent or two. Based on the fact he can make an astronomically large explosion that can be seen from Earth. How do you make an explosion so big to where people that just minding their own business can see it all the way on Earth? And this is how big it is on the moon. Like, they even say in the narration, the moon explodes. These are considered lower tiers in the One Piece world, guys. What do you think current Crocodile can do? Blast with enough concussive force to make an explosion big enough to be seen from Earth, but with sand or something? Blast away small countries? Like, what do you think he could do? Blast away multiple small countries based on this stuff? Based on what lower tiers can do? Current Crocodile's bounty's kind of high. He has haki too, to put armor around his limbs. And when it comes to Crocodile, he's never been slow. One Piece characters, even Zoro, this is not necessarily Luffy on this particular situation, but this is something Luffy could do, dodge this. Like, light speed is like pretty common in this One Piece universe. Luffy, even before the big time skip, he was slower, weaker and everything, was reacting to literal photons, light speed stuff. I'm not exaggerating when I say Luffy be dodging like actual photons. Luffy dodged it here again, like 3 or 4 times. I've already showed you. You know these are actual light beams because the way they react to mirrors. Yawn dodges it again. This is just to give you an idea of how fast he would have to be during this point in time when he was boxing it out with Luffy. I'm not even talking about this. He's even faster here, of course, but we ain't seen no feats like this, but he's definitely faster. There was even times when Luffy was launching a lot of punches and it looked like he vanished from the fist. All kinds of dodges and occasions of him competing with Luffy's fighting speed. Catching his punches. This puts in perspective how fast Crocodile is. Look how he does Nico Robin. Pretty much showed his speed. He disappeared like and blitzed her. All these occasions should show based on how fast Luffy is during this time period, reacting to photons. Crocodile has the bare minimum be light speed, just as a bare minimum fighting speed or dang near close to light speed. light speed reflexes isn't a big deal in this universe, especially if we start talking about time skip stuff. I mean, Crocodile's even faster than this currently. Oh, yeah. But what do you guys think? Honestly, Crocodile has some explaining to do. Like, who the heck was he training with off screen to get this strong? Seriously, I want to know what he's been doing off screen. Current Crocodile is a beast. Got hockey. Oh, man, it's going to get crazy when we see him fight again. But before I get going, Crocodile believes you should hit that like button for me, guys. It would really help out the channel. And thanks for the donations, everybody. Crocodiles kind of became a monster. I'm glad you are enjoying your time on the channel. Make sure you check out the playlist on the channel to see other How Strong videos. If you like what this channel is offering, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys later.